Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. I'm so happy that you guys came back for another one. It's great to see you all again. So here we are guys in my new office, and I think you've seen a couple of videos already in my new office, but anyways, I'm still trying to get used to it. And more importantly, in this video, we're gonna talk about what it was like moving into this new home and especially setting up in this new office. But more importantly, fixing a common problem that most people have in their house, and that has to do with their Wi-Fi. Now, as always, guys, before we jump into things, make sure you go ahead and give me a like for the video, as it helps the channel grow. Subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications so that way you're notified whenever we upload to the channel. And share this video with a family member or friend, because this video is gonna be all about fixing your Wi-Fi. And let me tell you, this video is gonna be from the perspective of the average person. If you don't know nothing about tech and you don't know how to fix any of these issues whatsoever, this is the video for you. Now, to my network engineers and everybody who's super technical, I'm sorry, but that's not where most of us fall. And I wanted to make this video in order to make sure that even somebody who has no experience can figure this out. All right, so let's jump into things. So the first thing that I want to do to help you guys out is you have to understand what our floor plan looks like. So that way, when I'm talking about certain rooms and showing you what the performance is in certain rooms and how we fix these problems, you understand exactly what I'm referring to. So let's take a look at the floor plan. So on to taking a look at the lay of the land, and especially the floor plan in our house. That way you can see how things are pretty much laid out in our home. And when I start talking about bedrooms and certain things, you know exactly what I'm talking about. As I take a look here and we move in a little closer, this house has 4 bedrooms. So we have the owner's suite right on top over here. We have bedroom number 2, which is down in the front of the house over by the porch. We have bedroom number 3, and then of course bedroom number 4. So bedroom number 4 is blue over here because it can be a flex room or a regular bedroom. And it was decided upon the construction of the home that it would be a 4th bedroom. And that 4th bedroom is the office, and that's actually where we're recording our videos. So as you can see here, there's also a garage, we have a foyer, there's also a kitchen with a dining room and a great room, and it's a big open floor plan. So there's a lot of space, and we have to cover this whole entire home with Wi-Fi. So how do we go ahead and do that? And keep in mind, this is a little over 2,000 square feet. And you want to make sure that you reach even the farthest areas, which also includes the lanai as well. All these things have to be covered with Wi-Fi. Now that you guys have seen the home and the floor plan, the next thing I'm going to do is let's talk a little bit about how we calculate how much bandwidth we need in our home. And bandwidth is nothing more than a fancy term of saying how much speed do you need, or how big of a pipe you need going into your house. And these are the numbers that you see when you go on these websites like a Verizon or a Spectrum or anybody who is an internet service provider. They typically have a fact sheet and they tell you, hey, these are the speeds you're gonna get. That is the bandwidth. Hey guys, so welcome to the desktop, and welcome to what I have here is an Excel spreadsheet. And this is gonna be the part where we actually take a look at what are we doing that requires an internet connection, and more importantly, what type of bandwidth does it need in order to accomplish that. And I'm going to show you guys how to make quick and easy calculations. Now, this is going to be rough calculations of how much bandwidth you're going to need in order to accomplish your task and your goal. So first things first, let's go ahead and put in applications. Next we can say download. Next we can say upload. Now keep in mind, the download and the upload is going to be the requirement for the application itself. What does it need in order to run? And typically megabits per second. So let's start listing applications or things that we do that requires an internet connection, and then we'll go ahead and start listing the bandwidth requirements for them, specifically from a download and an upload perspective. So we definitely watch YouTube in our house. We also watch TV in our house. So of course we have YouTube TV. We do some web browsing. Since we work from home, we use all different types of communication devices in order to work from home. And I use the G Suite a lot, or Google Meets. I have used Zoom as well, Teams, emails. Now my wife and I usually do video calls, and we use WhatsApp in order to do that. We typically use Wi-Fi calling in order to make our phone calls. And of course, I'm gonna say T-mobile Wi-Fi calling. So we make our calls over Wi-Fi, and T-Mobile is a carrier that we utilize. Kids at home, they actually stream as well. Now that I think about it, they have Netflix, and let's say Disney Plus. We definitely manage our finances at home, so I'm gonna say online banking, online shopping. Now, online banking and online shopping are very, very similar to web browsing, but just for the sake of the conversation, we'll go ahead and include it. Now, this is a good representation of most of the things that we do in our home, and I believe at this point we can go ahead and do a baseline of what the bandwidth is that we need in order to accomplish all these tasks. Now, if you don't know, you can actually go and look this up, meaning you can Google or search for what is the bandwidth requirement for all of these applications. And if you can't find the information, you can always use AI or generative AI in order to see what that comes up with. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna bring in our browser, and let's go ahead and we're going to search for YouTube bandwidth requirements. And let's go over to this Google support doc over here, because it actually tells you system requirements and supported devices for YouTube. And one of the things that I always tell folks is plan for the worst case scenario. So worst case scenario means what is the most bandwidth that you're going to use at one given time. And I think the biggest thing here is 4K UHD video resolution, and it tells you that you're going to need 20 megabits per second of sustained speeds. So let's go ahead and add 20 megabits per second. Now here's the thing, as I continue to take a look at the requirements here, you may be asking yourself, well, what do we need on the upload side? And I don't really see anything here that's listed for the upload side, but you have to think about exactly what you're doing when it comes to YouTube. In my particular case, I am uploading videos to YouTube. That is very important for me, and I would have to really start looking at that. But for the most part, and what most people need, they don't upload videos to YouTube, they actually consume videos, meaning they watch videos. And so the download is really the most important thing. So for the sake of making this conversation very easy, I am going to use the standard 1 megabit per second internet connection in order to have that for the upload speed. But keep in mind, your mileage may vary. And in my particular case, that 1 megabit per second is actually unrealistic because it will take me a very long time in order to upload videos to YouTube. But again, we're just gonna make the conversation easy and leave it at 1. Now the next item on the list is YouTube TV. And of course, as I mentioned in the past, you always wanna plan for the best TV streaming experience, especially if you have a 4K TV. And it tells you here that 4K plus subscribers, they need a 25 megabit per second or greater download speed. And remember, we're not uploading anything to YouTube TV, so really we don't need anything on the upload side when it comes to YouTube TV. We really want to consume the content, so we're going to be downloading a lot. So let's go ahead and add 25 megabits per second. Let's add 0 on the upload. Let's go ahead and do Teams. So under this document provided by Microsoft, you have the network requirements. And looks like we get to the bandwidth requirements. And the bandwidth requirements here are listed in kilobit per second, up and download. Now, if you're asking, hey, I thought we were doing megabits per second, what do you do when it comes to kilobit per second? How do you make the translation? You can actually utilize calculators in order to do that. Let's type in bandwidth calculator. And the first one from calculator.net looks good. And we can click on kilobit. Now let's head back to Microsoft's document. You have the minimum, you have the recommended, and you have best performance. So let's go with best performance. And it looks like 4,000 on the upload and 4,000 on the download. And of course that goes across for screen sharing and also video calls. So let's use those numbers. So let's head back to the calculator. Let's type in 4,000. Calculate. 4,000 is equal to 4 megabits per second. So because it's on the upload and the download, 4 and 4. Now this is going to be rough and dirty, but of course this gives you an idea of really what bandwidth you need in your house. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to add all of these together. So on the download side, you need 117 megabits per second. On the upload side, you need 33 megabits per second. Now keep in mind, guys, this is just
if you are doing all of these things at once, meaning I have to have YouTube running, I have to have YouTube TV running, I have to be browsing the web, going on Google Meets, going on Zoom, going on Microsoft Teams, making a phone call, right? We go down the list. That is what we would normally see, 117 megabits per second on the download and about 33 on the upload. But that's not realistic, of course. But again, this is just an easy way of figuring out mathematically what is the general bandwidth requirements for our home. Now again, I'm oversimplifying this, but in order to make this even easier, because I have 4 people in my home, what we're going to do is we're going to take our download speeds and we're going to multiply that by 4. Now again, this assumption here is assuming that all of these things are happening at the same time and everybody in my household is doing it at the same time. But let's go ahead and do the same now on the upload. So here we have it. For a household of 4, I'm going to need 468 megabits per second on the download and 132 megabits per second on the upload. And again, this is not exactly what you would need because this assumes that you have all of these applications running at the same exact time and everybody's doing all of these things at the same exact time. So really, it's a lot less than this. But this is a nice, easy, simple way of seeing how you can start calculating how much bandwidth you need in your home.
We just saw how we can easily calculate how much bandwidth we need in our home. And to be honest, guys, as you saw, it was really quick and dirty math. Nobody's really going to be using all those applications and all those things at the exact same time that you really need that bandwidth. But it was a nice, easy way just to understand how these things are able to be calculated. If you want to take an example that's a little bit closer to what a real world scenario would look like, one can say, hey, I'm one person in my house. I like to turn on the news in the morning while I go ahead and browse the web. And when I turn on my news in the morning, I'm watching YouTube TV, so that's the 25 megabits per second. And browsing the internet can be 5 megabits per second for a total of 30 megabits per second on the download. And that's to have an awesome experience. So then you might say to yourself now, well, in order to watch YouTube TV and browse the internet, which is all that I do, and that's 30 megabits per second on the download, why are these companies always telling me that I need a lot more and more and more speeds over the years if I go ahead and I complain about a slowdown? Now that topic can be for another video, but you're starting to see how a lot of it is just pure marketing, and most of the times people don't have the right equipment set up in their house and they don't know how to fix their issue, and calling the company and explaining the issue oftentimes just leads to an upsell that really doesn't fix the issue at hand. But we can talk about that at another video. Now that you have a rough estimate of how much bandwidth you need in your home, the next thing to look at is what kind of speeds are we getting in our house currently? And I always tell folks to start there, because if you are getting horrible speeds in your house, meaning at the modem itself, then there's no point of going any further. Let's head over to my laundry room, and the reason why we're going into the laundry room is because in this particular house there is a panel in the laundry room, and it's apparently that's where the common thing is in single family homes over here in Florida, but they put this panel in here where they run the wires. Personally, I'm not a fan of it, but let's take a quick peek. So here we are in our laundry room. Here's the panel that I'm talking to you about. So if we take a look inside, here we have our modem. Here we have a battery backup unit that I installed as well. And then we have some Ethernet cable as well as coax cable. But the biggest thing to know is here is the fiber cable that comes into the house from outside. And this is the actual modem that I have from Spectrum. And so this is what provides you your internet in your house. It takes the signal coming outside from the fiber and it converts it over into Ethernet, which is what we have over here. One thing to note is this Ethernet goes up and around, and it goes into this little cavity over here, and then it goes up into the attic, and then from the attic it does come down into the office. Now here's the back of my modem, and notice that the Ethernet cable where it's plugged in, there's a port that says internet, and then also right next to it says 10G or 10 gigabits per second. So this modem is capable of communicating very quickly with that 10 gigabit port. And I'll show you guys in a moment of why that is important. So welcome to under my desk, where all the wires are all over the place. We still haven't had a chance to clean this up. But more importantly, when we looked at the modem that is in the laundry room, and we saw that the Ethernet cable was going up to the attic, and then I mentioned that it was coming down into
this office. And this is the wall plate that it comes to. And here I have 3 ports. And the first port is going directly to the modem. Second is going into the master bedroom. And then the third is going into the actual great room out in the living room area. And so we already have the first one plugged in. And again, this goes directly into the modem. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the other side of this yellow Ethernet cable that we have here, and we're going to go directly to our laptop. And our laptop has 2 Ethernet ports. There's one that is a 10 gigabit port, and there's also one that is a 1 gigabit port. And we're going to see the speeds that are coming out of the modem, and you're also going to see the difference of having a 10 gigabit per second port and also as well a 1 gigabit per second port. And the reason why that's important is because your speeds will vary depending on how fast you can talk. So let's head over to the laptop now and see what those speeds are. So here we are on the desktop, guys, where we have our yellow Ethernet that I showed you previously. It is connected into our 10 gigabit port on the computer. And recall that I have 2 Ethernet ports, one that is a 10 gigabit per second and one that is a 1 gigabit per second. And again, this is a straight connection back to the modem. So let's see what internet speeds we get. And to make sure that I am telling you the truth and being honest, if we go into our control panel, then we go to Network and Sharing Center, and we head over to our Ethernet connection, you can see here that, of course, we are connected at 10 gigabit per second. So let's go ahead and close this out, and let's bring in our web browser, and let's head over to speedtest.net, and let's go ahead and run our test. So here are the results, and on the download side, we have 1,158 megabits per second, and on the upload side, we have 1,058 megabits per second. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take a pause. I'm gonna go ahead and unplug that yellow Ethernet that you saw earlier that's going to the 10 gigabit port on my machine, and we're going to put that into the 1 gigabit port that is on my machine, and we're gonna see what the difference is. So we are all set making that connection, and now that Ethernet port, that yellow Ethernet port that we looked at earlier, is plugged into the 1 gigabit port in my laptop. We know that that is the case if I were to bring up the control panel. So here is our control panel, and again, we are in the Network and Sharing Center. So if I were to go over into our Ethernet port again, and of course you can see here that it's 1 gigabit per second. So I'm going to run the test again and see what results we get. And there you have the results. 922 megabits per second on the download, 947 megabits per second on the upload. Now there is a little bit of a performance hit on the laptop when we are connected over 1 gigabit per second, and reason being is because we are reaching the limits of that port. Whereas if we're connected on the 10 gigabit per second port on my laptop, there's still a lot of room for growth. So we just took a look at the speeds that are coming directly from the modem into our house, and you saw the difference between a 10 gigabit per second port and also a 1 gigabit per second port. In our particular case, when we have this router over here in the corner, that one does have a 10 gigabit per second port, and so we have more speeds that we can distribute throughout the house. But in fact, actually, I use the 1 gigabit port because again, it has multiple. I use the 1 in order to use the 10 for something else. So these are the trade-offs that you do whenever you're designing a network. But for simplicity's sake, we're just going to be using the 1 gigabit per second, so you know at least what speeds are coming into the house and also as well what we have to distribute. Now, if you're seeing something where those speeds are drastically lower than what you're paying for, then you know you have a problem at the modem, and then you know, hey, we need to contact the ISP or the internet service provider. I can't tell you how many times people contact companies without even knowing if the problem exists in the home or if it's something that's outside of the home. For those of you who are wondering what this router that looks like a spider on my desk, what is it? I did a video a couple of years ago that actually talks about the capabilities of this router, and I'll link it somewhere in the description or possibly on the screen as well. So the router that I'm using in my office is an ASUS RT-AX89X, and this router is phenomenal because I've been using it for the past couple of years. Now, some of the features that I care about when I purchased this router several years ago, I was considering the dual 10 gigabit port that's on there. At the time, Wi-Fi 6 was brand new, so that was also another selling point for me. And one of the other features that was very important to me at the time, and I knew that I typically end up keeping my networking gear for a couple of years, was the AI mesh feature. And all it is a powerful whole home Wi-Fi system, and it allows you to basically extend the coverage in your home. And that's exactly what we're going to be using today in order to showcase what it's like to use AI mesh in order to increase the performance in your Wi-Fi in your home. So if you're wondering what's so awesome about AI mesh allows you to, as you travel throughout your home, your device auto selects the best Wi-Fi signal. And that is phenomenal because when you move from room to room, you want to make sure you have the best coverage that is available. Not only does it allow you to do that, but there also is another feature that's built in that's called self-healing connection. Now, the self-healing connection feature is an amazing feature that's built into AI mesh. And if there's a disruption in any part of your AI mesh network, the self-healing capability immediately replaces a failed router using the remaining router's connection. So where that might be useful, let's say, for example, your router is connected to another router that is an AI mesh router, and that is connected over Ethernet. If that Ethernet cable fails, the router's automatically switched over into wireless communications, so that way it can self-heal and still continue to communicate. Now, again, these were all features that I thought of back then in order to make sure that as we continue to grow with our networking needs, whenever we move from place to place, I can utilize these features in order to make sure that I can keep my investments for many years to come, and more importantly, get the performance that I need in whatever situation that I put myself into. So now that we know a little bit about the speeds that are coming into our house, I gave you guys a little snippet of the router that I'm using in the office, and also as well some of the features that I'm leveraging. The next part is, let's take a look at the performance around the house and let's see what we're getting so that way we can understand, should we even buy another router? Do we even need to utilize that AI mesh feature that I was talking to you about? Let's go ahead and take a look at the numbers. So in order to perform this test, what we ended up doing was we ended up taking my Galaxy S22 Ultra and we went around to each section of the house and we ran a speed test. And we did 10 speed tests in every single location, and we took the average speeds that we were seeing in every section of the home. And so what I'll do for you guys is I'll go ahead and put the results up on the screen. So if we take a look at the results here, if we look at the owner suite, and that's bedroom number 1, we have an average download of 819 megabits per second, while on the upload, we have an average speed of 661 megabits per second. Bedroom number 2, we're seeing an average 531 megabits per second and 282 megabits per second on the upload. Bedroom number 3, we're seeing an average of 767 megabits per second on the download and 561 megabits per second on the upload. Bedroom number 4, and of course this is the office in which I work. If I were to use a wireless device, on the download side, I'm seeing 749, and on the upload side, I'm seeing 845. Now heading over into the dining area, on the download side, we're seeing 820 megabits per second, and on the upload side, we're seeing 671 megabits per second. Now if we go into the bathroom, and especially in the master suite bathroom, I'm seeing a download of 840 megabits per second, 744 megabits per second. In the owner suite walk-in closet, we're seeing 852 megabits per second on the download, 857 on the upload. In the great room, we're seeing 844 megabits per second on the download, 744 on the upload. In the kitchen, we're seeing 726 megabits per second on the download, 550 megabits per second on the upload. In the garage, we're seeing 853 megabits per second on the download, 900 on the upload. In our driveway, we're seeing 179 megabits per second on the download, 60 megabits per second on the upload. And in the lanai, we're seeing 400 megabits per second on the download, 153 megabits per second on the upload. And lastly, in the backyard, we're seeing 36 megabits per second on the download and 6 megabits per second on the upload. Now, as we review some of these numbers and we look at the performance, you might be asking questions like, why did I go ahead and test our internet speeds in the bathroom? Or why did I test the internet speeds in the driveway? Or why did I go ahead and do it in these really odd locations, maybe the lanai area, right? Or even in the backyard. There's different use cases in which you may want to cover just to make sure that you're able to do what you need wherever your device is. As an example, if I'm in the bathroom, let's say I want to sing along to my tunes while I'm showering, of course you need to be able to access your favorite streaming audio platforms, maybe it's Spotify, Pandora, whatever that looks like. You need to have a good internet speed and connection while you're in the bathroom. Now for me personally, when we look at the lanai area,
I love to go outside and work in the lanai and drink a cup of coffee. So in the morning, I'll go ahead and read some of the news, or maybe I'll step outside and work out there for a little bit to get a little bit of fresh air. So having a good Wi-Fi connection and speed over in the lanai is also very important. Now, if we take a look at the driveway, you might be asking yourself, well, why the driveway? Let me show you how the world is changing and why it's so important to even have Wi-Fi coverage and great speeds in your driveway. So we're outside, we're actually testing our Wi-Fi and making sure that we have good coverage out here, and also as well phenomenal speeds. And you may be asking, why do we even care about having great Wi-Fi coverage and great speeds outside in your driveway? What's the point of that? And I will show you guys why it's getting ever so more important to have good speeds even in your driveway. And as we take a look over here, of course, we have a Tesla Model 3. And let's go ahead and take a look inside. Now, as cars become ever more so connected and they come with phenomenal features, and especially in this Tesla where these features get updated regularly, as you can see here, I have a Wi-Fi option, and of course, my car is connected to the Wi-Fi network in the house. And keep in mind, in order to make sure that you have all the latest and greatest software and your car is updated, you need to have Wi-Fi. And it's not just for Teslas. A lot of manufacturers are going in this direction. So now that we've seen the performance all around our house and we have a good idea of how much speeds we will need, the next question is, do we really need another router in our home in order to extend the coverage or even get faster speeds in different area? And in my particular case, the answer really is no. Now, even if we go to the location that has the poorest performance, and that was the backyard, where I was getting abysmal performance compared to what I'm subscribed for, the answer is still, I am okay to do the things that I need to do when I'm in the backyard. 36 megabits per second on the download and 6 megabits per second on the upload is more than enough for a use case. As an example, let's say I'm making a Wi-Fi call using T-Mobile, and as you saw, the numbers were 2 megabits on the download, 2 on the upload. I'm still okay there. So really, if I am constrained from a money perspective or I have a tight budget, I don't need to buy any more equipment. I'm okay with what I have. So now the other thing to consider is, if I'm okay on what I currently have, does that make sense for all the other devices as well? So in my hand are two devices. Again, this is the Galaxy S22 Ultra, and I have here the iPhone 15 Pro Max. And one of the things that I will tell you guys is that no two devices are made the same. So when we look at a Samsung phone, or say for example an Apple phone, or even my laptop that's connected in the back, which is a Dell, these companies often don't make their own antennas that go inside of the devices in order to receive those Wi-Fi signals. There's usually a manufacturer that handles that, and as an example, my laptop has an Intel Wi-Fi card inside. Dell does not produce it. And again, these devices here, they have different Wi-Fi cards in them as well. So the performance is not the same. So when I spoke earlier that my Galaxy S22 Ultra, the speeds that I was referring to is strictly on just this device. When it came down to my iPhone, I had very different speeds there. And in the case where I was in the backyard, the iPhone did not have any coverage, whereas my Galaxy phone did. So having absolutely no coverage on even one of my devices is an absolute no-go for me, and especially because my iPhone is my business phone, that had to have coverage no matter what, and that was the main reason why I decided to go with another router and utilize that AI mesh feature and extend the performance in my home. And more importantly, having that extra performance made a lot of sense anyways when we're going from room to room, or maybe we're transitioning from in the home to outside the home, in the lanai or in the backyard, and I want to continue, let's say for example, a Wi-Fi call that I have going on. I don't want to risk that call dropping because of poor coverage in my home. So we absolutely decided to go ahead and purchase another router and extend the performance in our house. In order to improve the Wi-Fi coverage in our home, and also as well the Wi-Fi speeds, and specifically in the backyard because I was concerned of losing Wi-Fi calls, or just, come on, nobody wants to deal with horrible Wi-Fi throughout their home. But in order to make sure that we covered the backyard, we decided to go with another ASUS router. And specifically, I wanted to take advantage of a lot of the features that came with my old ASUS router over here. and specifically the AI mesh that we talked about earlier. So I ended up purchasing the ASUS RT-AX89X router. Now, some of the reasons why I chose this particular router was the fact that it had dual 10 gig ports. And that was especially important because in our home, we have 10 gigabit network, and wherever I go and work in the house, it's always great to have that. More importantly, it's a Wi-Fi 7 router, so I can take advantage of all the latest technologies when it comes to the latest generation of Wi-Fi. And again, the biggest thing that I was really focused on, especially in the case that I'm dealing with right now, is the AI mesh network. This router allowed me to connect back to my old router. And when I say connect back to it, it creates what's called the AI mesh network. And so what it allows you to do is it allows you to extend the coverage, and it also allows you to increase the performance in those areas that suffer from poor connection. And now that you all understand where we have our router placed in our home, because you saw our floor plan earlier, you can understand now why I decided to put this brand new router in the master suite, because A, the further that you walk away from your router, the weaker the signal gets. The backyard is the area that I was having the most trouble with. The master suite is right next to the backyard. So essentially what I'm doing is I am making a connection from the router that's in the master suite all the way back to the router that is in the office. And the router that's in the suite is able to get its data and access the internet from, again, the router in the office. And it's able now to extend that Wi-Fi signal all the way out into the backyard. And I'll put up the before and after pictures of what I was getting as far as a speed increase and also as a coverage increase. And I will tell you guys, I am very, very impressed with the performance that I'm getting, and also as well all the capabilities that AI mesh has to offer. And with that, guys, it's literally as simple as that. You can utilize two ASUS routers in order to extend the performance and also as well the coverage in your house. And for me personally, I ended up leveraging my old router and also as well a new one, and have them work together, utilizing that feature in order to overcome some of the challenges that we had moving into this home. Now, as you saw throughout the entire video, this really was just teaching you the thought process of what you do in order to understand what equipment that you buy, where do you place the routers, what bandwidth do you really need in your home, what applications you use, the things that matter in understanding and how to build out a network. Now, let me know in the comments if you need any help in understanding how to build out that AI mesh network. We can go into the details and we can show you how to set that up if you have any questions. Also, don't be afraid to let me know what other solutions you've used in order to overcome some of the challenges. I look forward to hearing from you guys in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it this far, you're a real champ. I really, really appreciate you guys. And if this video has helped you out, go ahead and give me a like for the video, as it helps the channel grow. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. That way you're notified whenever I upload new videos to the channel. And share this video with a family member or friend, so that way they can learn how to build out a network in their house. And maybe they're having some of the challenges that I did in moving into this house. Plus, on top of that, I can tell you right now, a lot of people overpay for their internet. But again, that's a whole nother topic. So that'll do it for this video, guys. Love you all. I appreciate you. And I'll see you in the next one.